Hey guys, Greg here. This is the full and mostly uncut version of my interview with Eido Inoue, who became Japanese in 2010. If you don't have time for this hour-long version, check out the 10-minute summary that I made. Okay, enjoy!
If people ask me, so why did you become Japanese? And it looks like they're looking for a 10-second response. So the 10-second response I give them is, oh, I got a mortgage in a Japanese bank and I can't get out of the mortgage, so I figure, well, I might as well get nationality because I'm stuck here. And then they laugh, I laugh, and then that shuts them off. That's true. I do have a mortgage and all that, but that's not the reason I became Japanese. Yeah. My name is Eido Inoue. I was born in Washington, D.C. in 1970. My birth name is Adrian David Havil. I came to Japan in 1992. First Osaka for 10 years, and then my job and career took me to Tokyo. I am naturalized, which means I have Japanese nationality. I got that in 2010. So I've been a Japanese citizen for a little over 5 years. And part of becoming Japanese national is you must give up your other nationalities. So I can no longer vote in the United States and to stay there for a long time on a visa. I came to Japan straight out of college, and I didn't really come to the realization that I would let's make it permanent until I was 40 years old. So there you go. Yeah, it took a couple decades, and it's not like I was on the fence or just thought about it. It's just like you think that, oh, I've been here 20 years. It probably means I'm going to be here for another 20 years. Once you have invested emotionally, financially, career-wise, and all this so much in Japan that you know that taking an alternative path, like in another country and all that, would be so difficult that it's better to plow through to the end in Japan. Then well, you're pretty much a lifer, and the odds of you changing course are minimal. Then it makes sense to invest yourself fully in the country by enfranchising yourself and getting all the rights that other nationals have. The catalyst was right after I did a assignment in the United States long term on behalf of my company. I was sent over there, and I thought it would be a really interesting experience for my family who had never lived in America for a very long time. And it was good and all that, but we realized that we were happier in Japan, and that would be the best thing for my family. So, and the best thing for me too, because I like being here too. Nothing against America or whatnot. I just grew too used to being here. So yeah, when I returned back from the long-term assignment from my employer, the first thing I did was I got PR, and then the second thing I did was I got nationality. PR is actually not a prerequisite for getting a nationality in Japan. That's a common misperception, but that's the order I did it. Well, there was actually very little information about it on the internet in English. There was a lot in Japanese. And the more and more I read about it on the English net, I realized there was so much misinformation about it that you really couldn't trust anything that was written in English about naturalization. You would hear things, anything from it being, oh, well, it's illegal. They don't let white people become Japanese. So it's like, really? A lot of people told me before I had done it that it was an impossibly hard thing to do. And their thinking about that was, they didn't know anybody that had done it. So if they don't know anybody that had done it, then obviously it must be very hard. And actually that's not true. If you get very wonky and you make a spreadsheet of the requirements for becoming Japanese, like how many years you have to be in the country, your financial requirements, and compare it to other countries, like North America, Canada, and United States are kind of outliers in terms of nationality rules. But Japanese nationality requirements for requiring Japanese are actually very similar to a lot of European countries. they all have these little check boxes where, basically you don't have to be rich, but don't be poor, have a stable sort of income. You don't have to be culturally assimilated, but it's generally a good idea to know the language, because if you know the language, that's a good predictor of whether or not you'll be able to have success in the country in terms of employment, career, and not having a nervous breakdown. There's other things that are obvious. Any type of constitutional democracy and all that. You swear allegiance to that country's laws and constitution. Yeah, it's really boring stuff. But yeah, so when I looked into it, I was like, well, actually, this is not too hard. The number one DQer for most people that keeps people from taking Japanese nationality is the fact that you cannot retain your other nationalities. From a globalization point of view, if you believe in dual nationality, where a nationality is like a credit card. So, well, I want to shop at Macy's, so I want a Macy's credit card, but I'm not willing to give up my Visa card in order to get the Macy's card. I want both cards. That's how most globalists look at choosing nationalities. If I could have multiple nationalities, yeah, sure, I love Japanese nationality. It's like, well, who wouldn't? Because it's all perks and no responsibilities. But the fact that they require you to change your nationality over, that's what prevents most people from doing it. I think there's 6 requirements. Number 1 is 5 continuous years physically in the country legally. They're very big about the legally part, because a lot of people that have not so legal situations think that naturalization is like a loophole that allows them to excuse them to keep them from getting deported. So they're very careful about checking that. Number 2 is basically a misunderstanding is that you have to speak Japanese. Technically, that's not a requirement. It falls under the requirement of having sufficient assets or ability to be done as a tech skill that's either certified, like a university degree or whatnot, and a career and assets, so that it doesn't say this exactly, but they don't want you to become a welfare recipient. So you don't need to be rich, but you have to show that you have the skills and career and ability, even if you don't have your own job. Let's say you're the spouse of somebody who does have a career, or you are within a Japanese family and they have enough assets to say you don't have to work for the rest of your life. We're going to take care of you. If they're willing to put that on paper, that counts. But so the second thing they're looking for is that you're unlikely to become a welfare recipient. You don't have to be rich, but you do have to have a job, and that usually includes being able to speak enough Japanese in order to do your job. Number 3, this should be obvious. You can't have a criminal record, either in Japan or overseas. And kind of related to that, you can't have any type of connections to organized crime, that it'd be domestic, like the Yakuza, or overseas, like the Chinese triads, mafia, you name it. And you can't be involved in any type of organization that advocates the violent or illegal destruction of the modern Japanese constitution. That modern is actually kind of important, because if you're an old-timer that actually fought against Imperial Japan in World War II, that doesn't count. It's okay if you wanted to destroy that Japan. You can't want to destroy the current modern Japan, though. And the last requirement is be willing to give up all your other nationalities. What you do is you go with this casework and you go through a series of interviews where this guy or woman is in charge of preparing your packet to submit to the Ministry of Justice for your formal application, with your application plus all the paperwork. For example, to prove that you have enough money and all that, you have to show all your old bank statements, all your tax receipts and tax records and all this and this and this and this. If the caseworker submits the packet, your chances of approval are in excess of 95%. And some years it's been like 99%. So you're good to go. And nobody has stats as to how many people give up prior to that submission process. Although legal scriveners that actually help people to prepare their packets along with the caseworkers and all that say the dropout rate is around, for non-special permanent residents, around 33%, and for special permanent residents, around 25%. In other words, 66% to 75% of people that actually begin a naturalization problem proceed to the finish line of submitting the packet formally to the Ministry of Justice. And once it's submitted to the Ministry of Justice, you're basically a shoo-in, because the caseworker's job is to make sure that a packet that is likely to be rejected, for example, let's say you have a criminal past, they'll tell you, you say, you know what, if you got something on your background that says you committed a crime, you're not going to get in, so might as well not bother submitting it. So once they submit it, it's basically a few months, and you have in excess of a 95% chance of approval. They do the interviews in Japanese and all this, and I was really worried at first, because I went into the first interview and I felt like I was interviewing for a job. I said, oh, I got to be really careful about what I say, and I got to make sure everything that comes out of my mouth is grammatically correct, and I use a beautiful pronunciation and all this. And no, the guy was surprisingly reasonable, and he was working with me and helping me and probing me. But then, and when I didn't quite understand what he meant about certain things about genealogy requirements, about why are you mapping out my family tree and all this, and he was very helpful. I said, oh, well, that's because when we create a koseki and all this for you, it will list your parents and all this, and whether or not you have a indirect or direct connection to another Japanese national determines whether or not you can qualify for what is called simplified naturalization versus regular naturalization, which is why I'm asking these questions. Whether or not your family approves of it or not is irrelevant. We do things by the book. So yeah, after the first couple interviews, when I realized the guy that my caseworker assigned to me was there to help me and to get me through the process rather than try to discourage me, then I relaxed a little bit. I mean, they do some sanity checks and whatnot, because the oath you take in Japan is 2 sentences long, and you don't even have to say it verbally. You sign it, and it says, I promise to obey the Japanese Constitution and the laws made under it, and be a good citizen. Period. Sign here. That's it. That's the only thing. You do sign one other oath. There's one other small oath that says, I swear to renounce all my other citizenships, and you do it, and you give it to the Minister of Justice. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. There was one part where they invited my my wife, and they interviewed my wife, and it was kind of like the cliched American green card interview, where they asked me questions about my wife, and they asked my wife questions about me, and there's an ulterior motive when they do that. They're trying to determine if your marriage is legit or if it's just on paper, because that's important to them. That's where a lot of their questions about your personal life and all that are generally focused. Like if they ever come to your house and all that, if they come to your house, the objective is not to see if you eat natto every day and how Japanese are you. They're trying to say, oh, well, he says he earns this amount of money and he spends this amount of money per month according to paper. Let's look around the house and see if what he claimed on paper kind of makes sense from his lifestyle. If you say you're in poverty and all that, and then they go to a very rich place that's opulent, and they'll have some questions. Or if they say you're comfortable, well off, but they come into your place and they see you have 7 roommates all sharing rent, they're going to ask you some questions. So yeah, when they were talking to my wife, I thought my wife was going to blow it for me, because she tends to love black humor and make inappropriate jokes on it. So they said, why does your husband want to become Japanese? And she said, beats me in this economy. I wouldn't want to become Japanese either. I probably want to get rid of my nationality and become non-Japanese. And thankfully, my caseworker laughed. He thought that was funny. He gave like a partial credit for that. So the interviews were pretty lighthearted, and they were always, he wasn't exactly a comedian in all this, but he was all smiles. And I think I made a joke to him once when he was like looking over my financials, and I said something. And just think, if I become naturalization, you're going to get that tax revenue like for the rest of my life. And he smiled, and he thought that was cute. And I guess he made a little scribble. But yeah, they were pretty low key. I know the interview doesn't go well for everybody though, because when you go into interview, it's a very old, well, at least in my case, it was an old rundown government building, and they have these very flimsy partitions. It's this big room that's like separated into 12 little interview rooms. And an interview room is like the just barely enough to sit two people, like a small water closet. There's a desk, chair, and there's literally, don't move your elbows around too much, or you'll bash into the partition and probably knock the interviewer next to you. So you can hear the people interviewing next to you. And so while I'm interviewing, I can overhear other people in their interview rooms and what their interviews are like, and say, well, are they doing better than me? Am I doing better than them? And some of the interviews were crazy. Just like I was thinking about the interviews, like, what are you doing? Because I'd hear the caseworker saying, no, a library card is not an acceptable form of identification. So I told you to bring this and this and this. And it's like, well, how about this? I said, as I said, you need this form of ID, this form of ID. And I said, why didn't you, I explained all this to you last time, and you didn't do it. It's not that hard of a requirement. And I'm thinking in my head, and I say, what are you doing, guy? I said, why can't you get it together? And I was thinking, that was me having sympathy for him. And then the other part was like, oh, compared to him, I'm doing pretty good. So I managed to actually get my paperwork and do it on time. They are very quick and prompt with those interviews because they do them all day long. And you're like, you have a 40-minute slot, and then right after you, there's another 40-minute slot for another candidate, another 40-minute slot for another candidate. So they do not like it when you waste their time. If they say in the next interview, bring this, this, and this, A, B, and C, and you don't bring A, B, and C, they get a little annoyed because the time is valuable and it's hard to do the appointments. And I got chastised once. He goes, I told you to make 3 copies of this last time, didn't you? See, look, it's written right here. And you only brought 2 copies. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I made 3. Okay. So, okay, I'll go over to the next room and I'll Xerox these. But just to let you know, we don't have a lot of time, so I can't do all this for you. I want to maximize your time and not waste your time and not waste my time. So they are very efficient and to the point. Yeah, so I asked my caseworker that, and I was like, so how long does it have to be? And they only give you 1 sheet, and they said, make as many copies of the paper, which is an open form paper, as you need. It's like, so does this mean it has to be more than 1 page? And I was like, well, how long do you think it needs to be? And I was like, should I keep probing him on this? So I asked around, and some people wrote a paragraph, some people literally wrote War and Peace, some people did it in classical Japanese style. My thing was I wrote basically until I got tired. One requirement they say you cannot, it has to be your own words in your own handwriting. Don't have anybody else write it for you. So I wrote this thing in handwriting. Oh, my kanji has really gone to hell thanks to computers, because when I first came here there weren't any computers. You did everything by hand. Now with kanji and all that, just like Japanese, my writing ability is going to hell. So I managed to get 5 pages, and I thought I'd get emotional about how much Japan means to me and all this. And so I submit the 5 pages for his approval, and he reads it very carefully and slowly. And after it, he's done, and I've poured my heart and soul out into these 5 pages. And I said, "So, what do you think?" It's acceptable. What? What? I really worked hard on that, and that's all you could give me is this acceptable? So, yeah, this is no, it's more than fine. Trust me. Yeah, I wrote it, and it's so goofy now that I look back on it. I cringe reading it, because it sounds like I'm trying to win a date with the prom queen and all this, trying to sell myself and about how worthy I am to become Japanese or whatnot. But yeah, so I managed to write 5 pages.
Okay, and so I'm assuming you qualified for the simplified?
Yeah, I
version?
did. I was surprised. I didn't think I would. Because he, when he's querying about the family and all, says, "Oh, so you've been like married like to a Japanese national forever?" So, well, yeah, I wouldn't use the word forever, but and he goes, "Oh, well, in that case, you don't have to worry about this whole 5 years thing, and normally 3 years, but you're almost at the 10-year mark for marriage and all that. So we'll just make it only 1-year residency because that's the easiest thing to do." I was like, "Well, I don't have any problem with that." Because when they check your residency, they're actually very strict about it. I had to take all my old passports and look at all the entrance and exit stamps and then detail them, because when they say 5 years of continuous residency, continuous means you're not out of the country for like more than 100 days straight or 150 days total in a period year for it to be counted as continuous. Because they don't want people that like tap their toe in Japan, once a year on like a business trip for 5 years and then say, "Oh, I've been in the country for 5 years, so give me nationality." They want people to actually live here to be Japanese full time. So yeah, accounting for all that, then because they only required 1 year of that, that made my life a lot simpler. One of the things that people tell you the myths is that for example, they'll say the reason why it's so hard to get naturalization is, and they'll tell this anecdotal story. They'll say there are all these people, these Koreans that live in Japan, and they can't become Japanese. And the proof is, if you look at the stats, that there's so-called 500,000, 600,000 Koreans that have lived in Japan. They were born in Japan. They always use the key word "born" because that makes it difficult for a North American to understand. Because in Canada and the United States, if you're born in a country, you get citizenship, whether you like it or not. There's a lot of accidental Americans out there, and it's hard for them to understand. So they'll say, "Oh, well, the fact that Koreans, are born in Japan, yet they can't become Japanese." That's actually, it's a lot more complicated than that. There's a thing called SPRs, which is an acronym, abbreviation for Special Permanent Resident. It refers usually to people that have immigrated to Japan prior to World War II as non-Japanese and have been here for generations. And due to the nature of wars and all this and this and this, and ended up being here permanently. They actually, I mentioned simplified naturalization before. There's a process that's even simpler than simplified naturalization, a special fast track for these SPRs. And if you are a SPR, the requirements that you, for example, be able to prove that you won't be a welfare recipient, that's dropped. You can be poor or on welfare or homeless and all that and still naturalize if you're a SPR. There's other things like you have to write a motivational essay on why I want to become Japanese and all that if you're a regular applicant, but SPRs don't have to do that. There's a bunch of other requirements that drop. Basically, the only thing that will keep a SPR from naturalizing is a criminal record. And if you look at the stats, I mentioned 95% of naturalized applicants are approved. For SPRs, it's even higher. It's like around 99% approval rate. And less than 1% are not approved. I can guarantee they all probably have criminal records. So it's the reason why most SPRs do not have Japanese nationality is because they don't want it. They could get it through a fast track process if they wanted to, but they either think they don't need it or due to history, and I'm not going to go into that now, there is a reason why they don't get, they explicitly choose not to get Japanese nationality. Now, if you look at the stats, that's actually the amount of SPRs in the 21st century has dropped precipitously, and the amount of people that have naturalized have gone up like this. So much so that pretty soon SPRs will be I won't call them endangered, a threatened species. They're not going away, they're just more and more people that are born in Japan and all that are choosing Japanese nationality. It was a bigger thing about 10, 20 years ago, but if you've ever read things on the internet saying like Koreans or Chinese that are born in Japan, there's no way they become Japanese, that's not true. That's kind of an urban myth.
Some people consider yourself or myself rich individuals, right, whereas I don't know. I don't consider myself rich. I don't know about you.
Yeah, see, and the reason I use the word rich a lot is because a lot of the misinformation I used to read about naturalization is that you either had to be like this famous sports star or this famous businessman or this really, really successful person. They only give it like to the creme de la creme, the ultra elite society. They're only people to get naturalized. That's not true. Most people that naturalize are pretty quiet and pretty average. Yeah, so what's a bare minimum you can make naturalize? I know I work with a lot of people on the website that try to get naturalized, and the most challenging case I had was a English teacher, and she told me she was clearing around, I think, 280,000 a month. 280,000 yen a month, and I think that's like is pretty close to as low as you can go with respect to monthly income and whatnot. And believe it or not, that number, the Bureau of Legal Affairs, they didn't have a problem with the number 280. They thought that was enough money to become naturalized. The problem they had with her is that her 280, she would get it from gig after gig after gig. In other words, she wasn't a full-time employee anywhere. She had a contract for like a year at one school, then a year at another school, and a year at another school. That's actually what concerned them. They said, you know, we'd rather you have a full-time job that even made less than what you do now than you know, your current situation. So I know that you can go as low as 280, and if you look in the, they give you a big guide booklet regarding a naturalization and have sample forms with this mock candidate that fills it out. And when they fill out their forms for like their income or whatnot, they'll put around, you know, for these so-called mythical successful candidates, always under 300,000 yen per month, so something around 260 to something, and you, for those that live in Japan, you know, that's especially if you live in an urban environment like Tokyo, that's not a lot of money. That is, you know, it's not poverty, but that's just getting by day to day. If you were going to go for naturalization, my recommendation would be the seishain, as in the permanent employee label, is magic, because labor laws are very strong in Japan. It's very hard to be terminated for no reason in Japan compared to some other countries. And so they really like to see stability. You don't have to have a lot of money, but they want to see that financial stability. There are policies, but there's no numbers saying you can't accept up to X amount of people of a certain nationality or whatnot. The reality is the numbers for immigration here are so low that it's not a problem that they really need that. Even like refugees and whatnot, the amount of people that apply are so low, and they're very, very strict on the requirements. That's a thing that Japan is criticized for a lot. they're so strict that people get accepted that yeah, they really don't need quotas because there's not enough people that want to become Japanese or become naturalized. That is a problem. In other words, and then where they say, oh, there's too many of them, we got to do something about it. Yeah, there's only about, I think at the peak, around 15,000 people per year that were naturalizing, and I think around there's 10,000 on average per year. That's not a lot of people, you know, so it's not a problem. Getting into Japan, gosh, this is again a long time ago, and I was spoiled in that I had all the hard work done for me. I was part of the JET program in 92 to 95, and if you do the JET program, that's kind of like being an ALT, except the government is highly takes care of a lot of stuff that like a private ALT has to do on their own. And one of the things is doing your visa and all that. So when I first came over, the visa I got was called I think it's called an instructor visa, Kyoshi or something like that. And I think most ALTZs get something like a specialist in international humanities or something like that. But yeah, so when I was accepted to that program, you give them all their details and then you send away your passport, and then you get your passport back, and magically it has the visa on it. I think I have that passport with that old visa on it if you want to see it. That is my very first visa to Japan as a instructor. It's compared to these days with the QR codes and all that, it's really low tech. It's kind of cute looking. So from what I hear, I did my degree was in computer science, and I did English teaching for 3 years, and then I immediately started a software engineering job right after that in 95. And then I never looked back in English. Not that I'm looking down on it or anything like this, but from what I've heard, what people tell me is that the way the ALT industry has evolved, not just in Japan, but in a lot of Asian countries and all this, the way they treat workers. I know it's possible, but I hear it's really, really hard to secure stable employment and a stable income with those professions, just because the nature of like the dispatch system and the fact that you have people coming in and coming out and rotating and all that, and because they know they have a fresh stream of people that are always coming in, that kind of depresses wages. They'd rather have somebody that can hire young and new, ergo cheap, rather than keep somebody around, and then they develop the job description so it doesn't require a lot of skills like real teaching, certification, whatnot. I know teachers that have become naturalized, and I know like self-entrepreneurs that like have English schools that have also naturalized and whatnot. I do know that, however, the ALT job, while respectable, is a tough racket to earn to have stability. And admits for some people they don't care if they have stability or whatnot. That's perfectly fine. I do know, however, that the whole don't have the potential to become a welfare recipient as being one of the requirements for naturalization. That can make things tough because if you like have gig after gig after gig after gig, and there's no guarantee that you'll be able to get that next gig other than the fact that you have a nice charming personality, the naturalization people, your case officer, say, well, let's wait until you don't have to be rich, but show us that your employment is a little more stable, because we're worried that you might go through a stretch of unemployment just by the nature of your work. So I can imagine where it'd probably be harder for a person in that type of profession to become naturalized. Japan emulated a German system for what's called a highly skilled worker visa, and it's normally calculated in points. Like if you like have a science degree, you have X amount of points. If you have this amount of money, you have X amount of points. And if you clear these certain points, It's like the best thing you can have up to permanent residency. That's like better than all the other visas. And Japan actually got that system from Germany, and both Germany and Japan have had modest success with the system, from what I've heard. Neither one of them got the numbers they were hoping to get from it, because most people are like, well, I can do what I need to do in this country with a visa that's less complicated to get, and if I'm going to get due to points, I might as well go to full shebang and go either PR or go citizen. But yeah, that's the only visa in Japan that I'm aware of that has uses the word points for figuring it out if you qualify or not. When you become Japanese, what makes it official is the so-called family registry, the koseki. And the koseki has a lot of rules, and it's been around for a long time and evolved and all that. But the general rule is the name in there, it can be virtually anything you want, but it's got to be Japanese. And when I say Japanese, that doesn't mean it doesn't have to sound Japanese. What it means is it has to use the Japanese alphabets: kanji, kana, hiragana, or katakana. It's just like if you are American and you're writing on your license, you can't use the Thai alphabet, you can't use the Cyrillic alphabet. They want you can use any name you want, but you got to write A, B, C, D, in the letters. So you can choose any name you want. It can be any random combination. They have a few little asterisks on that. And it's been the same rules that are regarding naming children, for example. They'd prefer you not call yourself like dickhead or whatever, the Japanese equivalent on your name and all that. They'll say you really want to rethink that. So you can have an all katakana name, you can have an all hiragana name, you can have a combination, and in fact, you can have something that sounds nothing like Japanese at all. There's no length limits on the names, although even though there's no length limits, that doesn't mean it's a good idea to have, a 30-character name, because, you'll have a name that basically nobody will remember or pronounce. Now, one thing that catches people is in Japan, if you are married, two Japanese that are married, they have to have the same surname. That doesn't mean the woman has to take the man's name, but it means that either the man has to take the woman's name, or the woman has to take the man's name, or in a case of naturalization, you can choose a brand new name, and then both of you together can go with that brand new name. So in my particular case, I had my birth name had V's in it, L's in it, and for those that know Japanese and know that neither letter exists, I spent 2 decades with nobody being able to pronounce or remember my name, and they'd always make faces when they'd see my name on a business card. So, oh gosh, I gotta pronounce this guy's name. I'm gonna screw it up. So my wife, on the other hand, had like her name in Japanese, to give an English equivalent, she's like the Smith of Japanese. Her name is Inoue, which is the name I chose. And nobody can mess that name up. So I figured, well, you know what? I'm going to, rather than take my birth name, I'm going to use her name. And now, whenever I say my name on the phone for like making a reservation for a restaurant, nobody says, can you repeat that please? Or how do you write that? They just, oh, I got it. It's like, oh, this is what it's like to have a common name. It's kind of nice. As for my given name, another thing about Japanese names is that you can only have 2. You have a family name, and then you have a given name. You have no middle names. If you want a middle name, it's basically what they do is they put it all together in your given name area, and they string it together. In Japanese names, there's nothing. There's no spaces, there's no punctuations, there's no dashes. So it would all be concatenated together. So anyway, my father and I have the same name, Adrian. He's Adrian Charles Haville. I was Adrian David Haville. And I figured, well, I didn't keep his family name, but as an homage to my dad and all this, I'll take Adrian, which in katakana would be Eido, but the magic number for Japanese names, if you want a successful Japanese name, is 4 syllables or less. Because if you are dealing with a Japanese person that's up there in the years, it's got poor memory, or maybe they didn't study English in high school or junior high school, the magic number that they can remember any arbitrary katakana foreign word is 4 syllables. Anything over 4 syllables, they're going to have a hard time remembering. So my mother-in-law looked at the name Eido and said, if you really want people to never ask you to repeat their name or mess up your name again, you got to chop it. So I took Eido and I chopped it to Eido, just 3 syllables. So a total of a 5-character name, which is perfect in Japanese because about 90% of most Japanese names are 5 characters or less. And yeah, that's how I came about my name.
So your last name or your family name is in kanji.
Is in kanji, yeah.
But your first name, your given name, is...
I chose katakana. I could have done it any way. I could have taken Eido and made a kanji equivalent. There's no like furigana on the koseki saying this is how it's pronounced. But I said, well, you know what? If I do that, then I'm going to have the same problem. People are going to look at my card and going to say, I can't read or pronounce this because, it's a unusual name and all this. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I already got a kanji, very, very Japanese name. And when you think about it, there is nothing more Japanese than kanji, because China has kanji, Korea has kanji and all this, but only Japan has kana. So I was like, well, there's nothing more Japanese than kana. Only one country in the world uses kana. So I'll go with kana. So okay, do I go with hiragana or katakana? So hiragana looks a little more effeminate, so I'll butch it up and I'll use katakana instead. It doesn't indicate my foreignness or anything. I just, decided to go that way. People that have a problem with it or that are surprised or shocked and all that tend to be non-Japanese, whereas Japanese people actually don't have a problem with it. They're often surprised and they try to hide their surprisement because it's probably the first time they've ever met a Caucasian naturalized person. So it's like a new experience and they're trying to play it cool with me, like, oh, don't say anything weird or anything, or don't say anything that he hasn't heard a billion times. My mother, people think, oh, your parents must have objected and all this and this and this. So no, my parents objected the minute I went to Japan in 1992, because that's when my mother thought she was going to lose me for good from then. At the airport, at the gate, pre 9/11, you could take your family and go all the way to the gate before you did the final departure and wave at the 747 as it flew off. You say, oh gosh, my only son is going to go to Japan. He's going to end up getting a career there and going to end up meeting a nice Japanese girl and going to marry there, going to have a kid and stay there forever, and I'll never be able to see my grandparents and the family line will be broken forever. I was like, Mom, you're exaggerating. It's just a 1-year contract with Jet. I'll be back in a year and then I'll start my job. And turns out she was right. I didn't know she was right at the time. I really thought I was only going to be in Japan for a year and then come back. I guess I liked it too much. So my parents became resigned to that in the early 90s. And then when I had a daughter and all that, that's like their second hope. There's like, well, we lost our son, but we still have a granddaughter that we can spoil and all that, and dote on and all that. So who needs him? As long as he takes care of his daughter and he sends his daughter over to America a whole lot and all that, we're perfectly happy. Now they're happy being grandparents. A lot of them thought it was, oh, cool, welcome. And then let's see if did they really treat me any differently? I noticed now when they knew that I could vote, they started talking more about politics in front of me and all that, because they knew I could vote and all this. So like, are you Minshinto? Are you Jiminto? Or are you going to vote for Koike? And we'd talk about that kind of stuff. And but not very different. I don't really see a whole lot. I can't really think of a whole lot of change in their attitudes. They just thought, oh, they're like, cool. good job. You know, you got to think of it from their perspective too. I mean, they knew prior to me naturalizing that, oh, this is a guy that's going to be here forever, you know. And I guess if they know a person's going to be there forever, it's not that much of a big surprise if they naturalize. So for me, it was all luck. You know, I never really intended to be here forever, but it turned out that way. It turned out that I got a career here. I didn't really intend on it, but I don't have a problem with having a career here. It turned out that I didn't intend to fall in love with the place, but I did. But, you know, and didn't intend to put down roots, but I did. So it was the logical conclusion, you know, to that. So, yeah. It's a difficult question to answer, and I often have to read the person, especially if they're not Japanese, to see if there's if it's a loaded question or they have ulterior motives regarding it, because a lot of people have opinions regarding naturalization and who should do it, who should not do it, and all that, and they try to phrase it, question to you politely to hide their opinion, but they're looking to confirm or disprove a certain bias I think they have in their head.
Isn't it like scary giving that up?
Yeah, yeah, you know, it is in a way, because you are you have to be really, really confident that I guess it's kind of like getting married. If you have the attitude of when you go into marriage that it really is till death do you part, and not till irreconcilable differences come in, then you know it's a life commitment. And you know, life commitments I think to anybody are scary, because they're like, what if what I thought now, it turns out it's not the case in 10 years? What if I end up hating this country in 10 years? Then what? You know, and then so anytime you make a commitment for life, I mean, it's not really a commitment for life, because in theory, if something happened really, really bad to me, I could naturalize to another country or immigrate to another country. I could become Canadian. That's my fallback plan, by the way. British Columbia. Yeah, if everything goes down to hell, I'll be rooting go Canucks. But for practical purposes, you know, you got to invest all the years and all that. It's effectively a life till death do you part decision. So you do have to make the decision very carefully, especially if you're giving up your other citizenship. I could even become American again. However, I'd have to get in line with all the other foreigners and do it the same way they do it. I'd have to earn it. You know, I'd have to get a visa, I'd have to get my PR, and then I'd have to naturalize to American, which is ironically because I have a U.S. birth certificate. But yeah, in theory, I could do it. I don't know anybody that's ever done that, though. If they exist, I would love to meet one and ask them a lot of questions.
That's interesting, because I didn't realize. I know you had to renounce your citizenship,
Right.
you know, American citizenship, but it kind of felt with like a family connection and being born there that they'd be like, yeah, we kind of have to give it to you back again relatively easily. No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah. When you go into the U.S. Embassy, that's how you renounce your relinquish your citizenship. They have this cheat sheet they read to you where they try to scare the bejesus out of you. They're reading all the things. You realize that this is irrevocable and all this. You will never be able to get this back. What they mean is, if you want it back, you got to naturalize. It doesn't mean, oh, I changed my mind. Just let's keep that naturalization, my U.S. citizenship going. No, it's gone. They also say, and if you have any more children, your children will not be American. You're aware of that. So they have this scare sheet that go line by line on you to try to make you think about it. And then they tell you to go home, make another appointment, and if you still want to do it, come back. So they put all these doubts in your head, and they make you think about it. And then if you're really determined, then you give them a call back, and you continue the process. Last thing to do before punching the 4 holes, bare expatriated self on September 21st, 2011. So 349A1 means that I forfeited my U.S. nationality by voluntarily committing an expatriating act with the intent to lose American citizenship and formally reporting it. That's what 349A1 means. It's very, very hard in America. The way the Constitution works, it's impossible to lose your U.S. nationality unless you voluntarily do it. The UN says no country can make a person be stateless. So in theory, a country can, and some countries have talked about this, if you're a dual citizen, a country can yank one citizenship away from you, as long as they're very, very sure that you would not end up being a stateless. I think there was even something controversial Canadian law about taking away the citizenship of like known terrorists if they're dual nationals. I think it was called C-24. Was it C-25? I can't remember. Anyway, other countries as well in Europe have debated the so-called yanking away one citizenship if you have more than one, if like you happen to be a terrorist or whatnot. If you have one citizenship, per UN rules, they can't take it away from you. And why would they? If I was like a really, really bad person, they wouldn't want to take away my citizenship because it links me to Japanese law. They'd want me to be linked to Japanese law so they could use Japanese law to punish me by either fining me, putting me in jail, or executing me. So because I no longer have a second citizenship, that guarantees that from a current 2016 international law, there's no way I can lose Japanese citizenship.
You had your daughter before you naturalized.
That's correct, yeah.
And so is she technically dual at this moment?
She is dual, yes.
Okay, so you didn't have to make the choice for her at that point.
Right. Okay. So the whole fear thing about, oh, your children will never be able to become American. So, well, that's not true. Even if they weren't born American, they could always naturalize. It's not that hard. I did it. But yeah, she was born, so that made the decision much easier for me. Your nationality, and a lot of people confuse it with ethnicity. They say, oh, a child should have both nationalities because they shouldn't have to choose between both parents. It's like, first of all, a nationality is a lot like a political party. Let's say your father is left-wing party member and your mother is a right-wing party member. You can't be both left-wing and right-wing at the same time. And just because, your child turns out to be a liberal doesn't mean they'll love one parent less. Your political affiliations have nothing to do with your bond between your child. And that's what nationality is I am formally linked to the Japanese government and the Japanese Constitution. Just because if my daughter decides not to choose Japanese nationality doesn't mean she's rejected everything Japanese. It just means she decided to link herself to the U.S. Constitution versus the Japanese Constitution. And she's still ethnically Japanese, and she still loves both parents. Nationality, I know people get very, very emotional about it because you can't help but think that it's all interlinked, so, ethnicity is connected to heritage, it's connected to nationality and all that. But in modern democracies, it's not. It's nationality is your linkage to a legal system and to a government, and that's it. Whether or not you actually become Japanese at a different level, that's up to you. But that's not determined by your passport, Economic citizenship. A lot of people think that citizenship is an economic tool or an economic pass that allows you to basically sample as many countries to try to get as much money as possible. If this country turns out to be crap, I'm going to go to another country. And I don't want to go through the lines to get a visa. I want an express pass so that I can do whatever I want, make money whatever I want without any government stopping me. So that's the economic view of citizenship. And there are some people that do that in Japan, as well as the United States and Canada, for example. Like I know a lot of Chinese entrepreneurs and all this that get Japanese passports because they say, well, the problem is I go all around the country, I mean, all around the world, and a Chinese passport, you need like a visa to go anywhere. There's no visa exempt countries for it. Whereas a Japanese passport is a lot like a British or Canadian or US passport. You can basically go to every country with exception of a handful. So they get it for economic reasons. And I know one person too that has like Japanese nationality, he naturalized, and he doesn't live in Japan, and he uses it as a economic tool. And that's legal to do. You can do that in theory. I have some opinions about that, whether or not that's maybe long-term the most emotionally healthy thing to do, especially since it's such a huge decision and it's hard to change. But, you know, some people do it and they don't have a problem with it, and it doesn't seem to hurt anybody. So
For me, I always consider my kids to be, they're just both. Like, it's hard for me to, you know, even if you gave something up, they're still both in my head.
well, yeah, you're thinking you're thinking from a father, and you're thinking from your soul, your Canadian soul. So, they're maple syrup drinking, poutine eating, ice skating. They have that, even if they don't actually do it. They got it in the heart, and they learned it from me. They'll always have that, and they'll have your wife's soul too, and they'll have they have things that they learn from both cultures. Yeah, a legal document does not certify or change that. So there's three aspects to Japaneseness. I think there's a race, or I know race is a social construct. So let's say phenotype, your external appearance based on your genes. There's ethnicity, and some people say that ethnicity and race or phenotype are interlinked, but not always. And that's very important for cases like you and me, where we have daughters that are, or children that are half Japanese and half not Japanese. And finally, there's the legal aspect, which is, what I have. I see evidence in 21st century Japan based on so-called half. Half is a Japanese word that actually means mixed. It doesn't necessarily mean half something, half this. It could be a variety of things. The implication is usually Eurasian, as in half white, half Asian, but it's technically half can be like half black and half Japanese, or anything you want. But within Japanese society, and especially in key power positions, have a difference. And even in like my workplace and career place and all this, you see people that do not racially or from a phenotype perspective look like Japanese, yet from an ethnicity point of view, they were born here and grew up here and were educated here. And the point of that being is that if you close your eyes, you can't tell the difference between somebody that looks Japanese and somebody that doesn't look Japanese between them. And I see their acceptance and success in society here. And for the most part, you also see Japanese people that aren't half accepting them as one of their own. So I think that, of course, in every society, even Canada and America, there are some people that believe in racial purity and all that. And there will always be that 0.0 whatever percent of those people that exist. And there's nothing you can do about them. There always is. They're not that big a deal. They don't count. They don't matter. But I think for most people in Japan, they can separate the idea of not looking Japanese, but acting Japanese. And by acting Japanese, I mean speaking Japanese as a first language and having that common set of cultural experiences that comes from experiencing the country for a very, very long time. So this also, I think, goes into a popular topic, especially amongst Canadians and Europeans for today, of a multiculturalism versus assimilation. And there's lots of different definitions of what those two words mean, and there's disagreements. But assimilation usually implies that it's an immigrant's duty to try to fit in, not just do the bare minimum, like follow the law, don't invoke, but also do things like adopt the language of the land as your main speaking language. And, and that's probably the biggest point with Japan, at least. Then there's a multicultural theory that says, no, the rest of society should make immigrants feel welcome by trying to adapt more of their culture. And then there's subterms like acceptance or whatever. But I think Japan is a assimilation-based society where I think they accept immigrants so long, and not just of course, everybody has to obey the law and obey the land of the law and whatnot. But I think they also want you to accept their ways. And you can define ways as being the bare minimum. Speaking a language and not living in your own little land or a gaijin bubble or whatnot. If you do that, I don't think that skin color is that important to them. And I base that answer on evidence you see in the mass media of people that don't have the same skin color as other Japanese. Yet, for all intents and purposes, if you close your eyes, you can't tell the difference. Yeah, and there is a weird one, and I'm not sure it's a myth. And I only hear this. It's funny. I have interviewed personally, either through email or in person, like we're doing now. I've talked to about 200 to 300 people that have naturalized, thanks to my website. That's a nice, fun thing about it. It's getting emails from random strangers that saying, "Oh, I read your website and I had some questions, nor I naturalized, and thank you very much." Or they'll invite me for coffee as like repayment for me doing a website or whatnot. And I get to talk to them. And there's a weird thing where, and you only get this from non-Japanese or from Japanese that have been in the United States or America that have become like Americanized, that speak English all the time. They'll say, even if you become Japanese, you'll still never be accepted as Japanese. And that's, I think about it, so what's their motivation for saying that? It's like, your first thought at first is like, oh, that's a really mean thing to say. But, as in, you'll be nothing but a social failure despite the fact of what your passport says and all this. But then you look at the pattern and then you notice, the only people that actually say that are people that are not Japanese and then people that are not naturalized. And sometimes they'll say, oh, but I know this person that lived in Japan for 20 to 30 years and he speaks Japanese fluent. There's always that mythical guy out there. I've never met him, that apparently is the most bitter gaijin in the world, that has the mythical gaijin that everybody brings in. He's always anonymous. He goes, I know this guy that's been in Japan for 30 years. He's ultra successful. He speaks fluent Japanese, but he is never accepted as one of them. I was like, what's his name? I'd love to meet him, talk to him. Yeah, that's not true. Now, having a passport does not mean you'll be accepted within society. Like I said, it's just a connection to a legal government and all that. Your job of being accepted into society is something that transcends passports, and it's something you got to work on and earn. You don't say, oh, I have this passport now, you're required to like me as a Japanese and to accept me as a Japanese. It doesn't work like that. However, can you be accepted as one and like everybody else in a society from the literally hundreds of people that I've talked to that have been naturalized, all that, I'd say confidently the answer is yes. That being said, it's not automatic. You're not entitled to be accepted socially into society just because you have a legal document. It's up to you to earn it, and you can do it. I know a lot of people that have done it, including me. And you don't even need to be a Japanese national to do it either. If you want to be accepted into Japanese society as a peer just like everybody else, I know it's possible. And it can be done because I've seen a lot of people do it. Yeah, so that I say that's the weirdest thing that I have said to me is that in response, oh, I'm legally Japanese. You know you'll never be accepted as one of them. Okay, whatever you say.
So that's the whole interview. I asked so many questions, but one thing I wish I would have asked about is refugees. Very little people get refugee status in Japan. If you have no family or special connections to Japan, the hardest part about naturalizing seems to be getting in the country on a work visa. Once you have that, the trick is to find stable work that's not minimum wage. If you put in the effort and learn Japanese at least a grade 3 level, that should get you there, and you'll eventually be able to naturalize. Eido has so much great information on his site, turnin-japanese.info. He has links to all the documents and requirements, and he has an impressive collection of stories from many people around the world. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the flip side.